everyone, welcome back to the latest episode of the Onigiri & Co podcast. I'm super excited today, to be honest. I've been fangirling like slightly before we started recording, I have to admit. I am with my usual co-host, Lexi, and our guest today is the one and only Joshua Bardwell.
Hi, how are you? Yeah, good to be here.
It's really good to have you here.
Yeah, I think Onigiri wanted you on the podcast for like a couple of months, and then she was like, Lexi, message him.
I felt like it wasn't my place, and I was like, I don't know how to say that. And you guys have met in real life several times, at least.
It's true. We have. Yeah, that's true. I've met you. I saw you at Rampage. Where else have I seen you? Where else have we met?
IO 2019.
No, I'm sorry. That's where we met. It wasn't Rampage. It was IO.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I've followed you. I've paid close attention to your career. As time's gone. And that sounds creepy. No.
That doesn't. You said career. It's not like you said, like your Instagram or something like that. Like that's fine. Well, I assume everybody in the audience knows you. Like it would be weird, but I still wanted to hear from you in your own words how you would describe yourself as a pilot, as a person, if you had to introduce yourself.
I mean, when people ask what I do for a living, I say I make videos about drones on YouTube. And I say that because that's the answer that's both true, but also calculated to create the maximum amount of confusion.
Love it.
So that's accurate. I make educational content. I'm a pilot, too. I probably don't think of myself first and foremost as a pilot. Because most of what I do is making content, educational content, reviews, and just thinking about what kind of content people want to see. In some ways, flying feels self-indulgent, and making content for other people to view seems like better. I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's the right way to put it.
Interesting. So what's the percentage of flying you think you do compared with the percentage of recording and sharing your knowledge?
Oh, I mean, percentage-wise, it's probably really small because I'm like every day making content. That's just my job. So, if I get out to fly 2 or 3 times a week, that's a really good week. Maybe once a week for a couple hours. But it's all day, every day in some ways, making the content.
Yeah.
Do you actually think that making the content is making you not be able to actually go out and fly, and then you're kind of like done with your work and you're like, I don't want to do anything?
I think that there's probably some truth to that. The flip side is that it gives me the freedom. I think it's a mental thing because when I do get out to fly, I really enjoy it. I never don't enjoy flying once I actually go do it. But
the problem is with going.
Yeah, because you finish work and then you're like, what am I going to do? So the way to work around that is to make going to fly part of work, right?
Yeah.
I have to make, but then every time I'm flying, I have to be making content, which then in some ways takes the fun out of it. So there's a lot of give and take, I would say.
And do you usually fly by yourself when you go fly?
Yeah, for sure. Just at my house mostly. I need to get out more.
Yeah. Oh, I was more like curious. I found it difficult to fly by myself. I'm a bit like this 70 years old grandpa who go to the airstrip to fly their RC planes. If I don't have my mates to talk shit with.
No, you're right about that. That flying with other people makes you so much better because they push you. Sorry, Lexi.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, I was talking with a couple of other creators here that were asking me like, oh, why won't you go and fly FPV in the touristy places by yourself? And I was like, well, I have goggles on my face. If someone comes and touches me, I'm going to lose it. And
that too?
Going out to fly by myself is actually really scary for me because I'm not sure what's going to happen. And I have goggles on my face and then I cannot do anything.
Yeah, I had a situation where there was a really cool construction site, and they didn't even have fences or signs, you know.
So it's asking for it.
It was like, okay, I could hit this site, but it was right next door to a shopping area, and there was a lot of traffic. There was no traffic on the construction site, you know, because it was a Sunday or whatever. And I thought it would be completely safe to fly, but the idea that someone might come confront me or have a problem, I just didn't feel comfortable with it. And I ended up not doing it. And yeah.
It can be scary depending on. There's different factors. Like, there's also like, what if there's a dog? I know it sounds stupid, but I'm always scared. Like if I'm landing, and there's a dog walkers, and sometimes dogs are off leash. I'm like, what if I land and I hurt a dog? And because that was something that was happening a lot to one of my favorite spots. But at the time, I was flying with people, and then I stopped when they all stopped flying, because I know a few pilots who, you know, moved on in life and stopped flying. And I'm like, I would love to go back there, but it's so busy. Or even like a small kids on a bike or whatever, something you might not see when you're landing.
No, you gotta, I really feel like it's important to pick the spots. Like if I could have found a spot where I felt like I was away from everybody, and like I would be fine with flying, and people would go, "Oh, where's that drone coming from?" But if they can see and where I'm at and maybe come up and make trouble, I didn't like that idea. If it's going to be super busy though, like parks and stuff, I mean, I would probably just not fly that area. But if you're going to fly it, you definitely need people to help spot for you.
I think so. Yeah, last year I was glad that one of my good friends moved to Melbourne from South Australia. Lexi has met him, and we could finally fly together again. And we decided to go fly on a beach one day, which can be busy around Melbourne. But we were like, we're gonna pick a strip of beach where, you know, there's not too many people, and you're gonna spot for me. And we're not going to push our luck. We're going to do the runs we need to do. And then we land, you know, we don't want any trouble with locals and stuff like that. So did that. Then I was quite happy because I was testing some stabilization softwares. I wanted to see how it behaves in the wind, you know, at the beach. So I did that. And then in my Instagram caption, I just said, oh, look at my spotter in the corner of the video, something like that. Like just mentioning him for fun, because he was just like appearing in the corner of the video. And someone commented something like, if you want to see OG video without spotters, come on my account or something like that. Come visit my account. Implying that having a spotter is not cool or something like that. And I'm like, this is shit behavior. It's not fun.
No. It's just because the FAA requires spotters that then people think you're like, you know, if you have a spotter, then you must have sold out or be a sheep.
Yeah, but it's heaps better, especially in like busy environment. And you are going to the beach where people are not expecting to have a thing buzzing around them, you know, and stuff like that. Like,
I have to ask. So I sound like you have a French accent. Am I right about that? But when you say Melbourne and beach, you have an Australian accent. Do you know that?
I have a weird mix of accent where some words are slightly, I don't know. It's a weird accent. I agree.
It was blowing my mind because you completely shifted to Australian accent, and I was like, that doesn't go. Okay. I'm sorry. I had to.
That's funny. You say that because. Yeah, when I speak to my friends from France, they always make fun of how I say okay now, because in France when you say okay, you say okay. It's very, you know, abrupt. And every time I say okay, they're like, okay. And I'm like, oh, come on.
Well, the French are not sticklers about pronunciation, so you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Actually, if you want to hear a really nice French accent from Noelle, you just go to the older videos, because your accent's changed dramatically. Yeah.
I think it has changed. People used to pick on it and were like, oh, it's so funny how you say camera, because I was saying camera and things like that. But yeah, it's changing heaps. And have you been to Australia, Joshua? I know it's not FPV related, but
I was in Sydney a long, long time ago. I went to Singapore actually for a business thing, and then while I was in Singapore, we went to Sydney, which is not that far from Singapore. You're already halfway around the world, so yeah. So I spent some time in Sydney, but it was so long ago.
So that was prior all the FPV stuff.
Long before that, yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, how did you start all of this? All of it.
Yeah, I mean, my first RC aircraft was an airplane that my uncle gave me when I was like 14, and I fail-safed it. I flew it for a while. I don't know how long, but eventually I fail-safed it. It crashed in the woods, and I never saw it again. And that was the end of that. And then 10 years ago, 8 years ago, a friend of mine got a DJI Phantom, and I thought it was the coolest thing. I just couldn't believe it. It was so much easier to fly than like the airplane, and you could hover, and it was just so cool. Yeah. And that got me back into RC. I actually didn't get a multi-rotor because I thought they were too expensive. I built planes. And then eventually got back into FPV and multi-rotors, probably through flight test, I would guess, and a little bit through Rotor Riot and Sharpoo, and started making videos, and eventually here I am.
Yeah. But how did you find your way into the type of video you were going to make? Like, were you like, oh, I'd rather share all the knowledge I have because I have it already? And was that? No. Okay.
No, I didn't have the knowledge for sure.
Like, I'm going to set up a YouTube channel.
Well, I had a YouTube channel, but it was just my personal channel. I don't know. I had a Google account, so I had a YouTube channel, right? And I just had, I privated all these videos, but if you go back to before 2014, there's just videos of my kids and, my dog, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but I was an instructor at the time. I was a classroom instructor, a corporate classroom instructor. And I did a lot of courseware development. And so I found that they would say to me, hey, we need you to write a class about X, right? And I would have to learn this new technology and write a class about it. And so the way that I sort of learned about new topics, I was primed to do that by organizing it, and then sort of teaching it. Obviously, I didn't go from like just zero and then here I'm a teacher, but you have to start from somewhere. And so I found that process to be a great way to understand a new topic. So when I started learning about like PID tuning and the PID controller, I immediately started making slides, and I uploaded these PowerPoint slides to RC groups, and no one, they got no traction. So I started making some videos explaining it instead, and that was sort of the start.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Great. You know what has always amazed me is that I have to admit something. I don't watch your YouTube channel like people, they're going to watch every video you publish and things like that. I'm a bit selfish. I'm the kind of audience that goes when I have my question. But what amazed me is that there's never been a question I've had that you haven't answered. And I'm like, how does he know that I was going to need exactly this?
I'll tell you how I know. It's that 17 other people asked that same question. So I get 50 to 100 emails a day.
Wow.
Not every single one of those is a brand new question. Some of them are continuations of previous conversations, but I spend a lot of time with people asking me questions. And so I feel like I have a pretty good sense of what people are struggling with. Like right now, people are struggling with OSD on digital systems like the O3, the Vista, the DJI goggles. They are struggling with getting that working. And I don't know why. I mean, that's not a new feature that just started existing, but that's a thing people need help with. So,
I think there's just a lot of new pilots.
Yeah, I think they're new.
Are joining, yeah, and they are just getting stuff that was, ready to fly, stuff from iFlight and things like this, and they come with DJI. So then you have a lot of people that didn't really have any experience with FPV before, but they find your videos, so they ask you the question. I would guess that this is the case.
Yeah, and things like WTFOS are fairly new, so people are like, oh, I want to route my goggles and try and get that working. Betaflight 4.4 changed some of the functionality, so some of the older tutorials don't work. The bottom line is there are these pain points, and if I just pay attention to my inbox, then eventually I can figure out what those pain points are, and then hopefully make a video, and then get this reputation for how did he know I was going to ask this? I mean,
Yeah, wow. That answered my question, because last time I watched a video because I needed a question was something about, I think it was with my radio. I couldn't calibrate it properly. It wasn't, my sticks were not going exactly how they were meant to be. And I'm like, this is so dumb. Should I even Google it? Because I don't know if Joshua is going to even, try to explain something silly. And I was like, let's just YouTube it. And you had it. And I'm like, wow, okay.
There's a real challenge because you put out a video like that and it's a simple video, and for the people who have that problem, it's going to be extremely useful. Like if you're struggling with that issue, then I just saved your day. But only so many people are going to have that problem. So there's a struggle because you want to put out videos that get good analytics. You want to see the view count go up. That feels really good when a video gets 50, 80, 100,000 views. But then you put out these other little videos, they're not going to get a lot of views, but that's super, super useful.
It's worth it.
Yeah. So
would it be worth utilizing the way YouTube is changing these days and sorting out some small questions in like short content and things like that? Have you thought of that?
So I tried making TikTok content. So TikTok is not exactly shorts, but I don't think it's well suited to this kind of content because you could put it in shorts, but it doesn't feel like that style of content is optimized for searching and finding an answer to a specific question, especially because you need to fit it in, let's say, 1 to 3 minutes, depending on your platform. And it's very difficult to do that. But even if you can fit it in 1 minute, that when you're consuming that type of content, I don't think for the most part you're searching for a specific answer to a specific question. Mostly what they want you to do and how they design their platform is you're just swiping, right? They want you to just get sucked in and swipe. And the problem is if I make a video saying, hey, here's how to calibrate your gimbals, if you're swiping, you don't care about that. In that moment, you don't need that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like that kind of content is well suited.
I was genuinely asking because I am not really a short or TikTok consumer. I don't think I have an extraordinary attention span, but I still like sitting and watching 9 minutes of content. And if I need to do something else, like it's going to be Instagram, and on Instagram it's mostly like dog video. That's what I do. But that's why I'm curious how people these days are trying to learn things. I'm like, are they also trying to learn things in like 30 seconds, or is it not happening? It's just mindless scrolling.
I mean, I think that there is only so much learning you can do in that, 1 to 3 minutes at a time structure. Like I've seen people who try to put educational content on Shorts, TikTok, etc., and you just cannot go into very much depth in 1 minute. Yeah. And the entire structure of the platform is that they're not going to want you to just go to the next video from this person and see stuff in it. Like, it drives me crazy when people say, okay, follow me in part 2. And I'm like, how am I going to find part 2? It's
that's so annoying.
That's true. Yeah.
So I don't know. I could be. There'll always be somebody who says, "Oh, this new thing is bad and worse than the old thing," and then they turn out to be wrong. But it doesn't seem like it's well suited to this kind of content.
Okay.
Yeah, but I also need to remember that generally it's hard to learn. Like a lot of people told me, like, "Oh, I learned so much from TikTok," and I was like, "Okay, what did you learn?" And they were like, well, I saw this guy doing something, and I was like, yeah, because it's so much information, your brain is just not sucking it in. You're like, oh, I need to do this receipt, I'm gonna save it, and you never go back to it. So that's another thing that's kind of like, not really sure. But at the same time, TikTok works way differently in China. So I wonder how they actually go through this there. Let's go to China and just open TikTok.
I learned little tips from Shorts or from TikTok. Like I learned, like they'll be like, "Hey," like I learned recently that there's a way that you can use a fence post driver to pull the fence post out when you're done. This is anyway. But so I have a fence post driver. I've been driving fence posts, and I've had trouble pulling fence posts before. And I saw this TikTok, and it's just like, yeah, you just put it up under here and you pull like this. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like I remember that. That kind of thing can be useful. Like a quick tip. Yeah. That can be useful.
Gonna say it's probably great for hacks and stuff like that, or even like products that can improve your life. Silly products like I can't find one right now. It's exactly what Lexi said, but I'm sure I've ordered something after seeing it on TikTok, and I'm like, oh yeah, I may as well get that. It seems a lot easier, and I'm using it, So
yeah.
Lexi, are you considering short content? Because I know you have two YouTube channels for your educational. Because you do also. Yeah, three. Damn, what?
Well, podcast will have a separate one.
Ah, that's true. Are you going to do shorts?
And the podcast will have the shorts. Yeah, that's why I'm doing video, because the guys here at the Creator House made me realize that if you do podcast with the video, then you can make a lot of shorts.
Oh, 100%.
And TikToks and Reels, and then get audience for your general podcast. So that's why we started the podcast doing videos. But yeah, Joshua, I don't know it yet. I'm going to have a podcast too.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome.
Fun.
Yeah, it's great for that, to be able to cut stuff like this out and put it in.
This is maybe something for us, Noelle.
Yeah.
It's free with videos.
I think so. I think we'll do that eventually, especially because myself, I consume a lot of podcast clips on Instagram as well.
Exactly. So for this, it's perfect, and it allows you to, get more audience, because you cannot really promote your stuff on Spotify.
Yeah.
But the other problem with that is that they make it very hard to leave the platform, which is their goal, right? So on YouTube, you say, go down to the video description. I've got a link to whatever. But on these shorts platforms, they'll watch the podcast, and then how do they get from there to find you on Spotify? It's not impossible, but it's tricky.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be saying just check the link in my bio, and in my bio I have a link tree.
Right,
so
that's already like 3 steps removed, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but I know that if you put a link in the description of the reel, well, cool. I'm not gonna copy it one by one, because you cannot click it.
Yeah,
right. So it's a shame.
This makes sense. Yeah,
and the other
you can leave it in stories too.
The other thing is like YouTube, the CPM on shorts is preposterous low. It's so low. So like I've seen when they first started giving shorts access to the Creator Fund or whatever they call it, I was like, okay, maybe we should try doing shorts. But then after the first month, people were getting maybe a million views, and they get $200. I don't remember the exact number, but it was preposterous. And I was like, there's no point in doing this for me. Yeah, I will make no money at this.
Total.
What's that?
The shorts. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
50 cents.
Yeah, and it was like, there's a lot of my shorts on YouTube that actually gain a lot of traction for some reason. Like the one that I made like 1.5 years ago, that I'm flying a flying car. It gets like views all the time, and still I look at my analytics and says like, oh yeah, so out of shorts you got 50 cents. And I'm like, but this thing has like thousands of views by now. Like, what is the point?
Yeah. What is the point? Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that if you have a product that you can monetize, like if you are trying to sell a product, then those views allow you to convert that. But if your goal is to get money off the views themselves, it doesn't seem not for somebody at my scale. If you're Jake Paul and you get 50 million views, maybe it's worth it.
Yeah, that's true. I'm really bad with monetization, so I I don't have knowledge on this, so I trust you both. But you said that it's bad.
Buy my book on Amazon. I can send it to you.
Yeah, Lexi has an ebook.
Yeah,
And a course.
and a course. Yeah, you're really good at doing all of this. So I think about, this podcast, I would just love this podcast to just be slightly more shared, just because, for the sake of, I think the people I have on the podcast, or even when we do an episode alone with Lexi, it's good content. It's, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's do video, and then you have all of those little diamonds and gold nuggets that you can make a reel of, like a 60-second conversation on something that's really important point, and then you have it, or little clips as well. So, hey, season 3 incoming.
Okay,
we found
new goal.
Software.
Yeah, new goal. Well, I actually have an additional question for Joshua. What were you doing? You said it a little bit before in my previous question, but before you became the Joshua Bardwell we know, what was your life like?
Yeah, so I straight out of college, I did instruction and course development for this company. They had a piece of software that did computer networking troubleshooting. And so I worked for them for a few years, and then later got into this. I guess this would have been around 2001. Got into designing and installing wireless networks. So I would do a lot of walking around a hospital, trying to figure out how many radios they need to provide the coverage they need, or troubleshooting problems. That kind of thing. I did that for up until like 2018. That was when I quit my day job. It was, I think, January 2018, and went full time.
Wow.
It's
pretty impressive.
No idea of this.
Yeah, I thought
in 2018 you were already doing a lot of content anyway, so that was like content on top of the job.
Yeah,
and
so
we all know it's a lot.
I was making it in my spare time. I did work out of my home, so that made it easier. And then, in addition, about a year and a half before I went full time, so I had still been making content, but there was a really slow stretch where I didn't have a lot of work to do, and I actually kind of thought I was going to get fired. Not fired, but they were going to be like, "Well, okay," after about 6, so I was just making videos. Most of the time I was like, well, if you got work, send me work. And there was no work to do. And I made a lot of content. And then I actually was on the verge of deciding to quit and go full time when we got a big contract. And it was going to be like a 1-year contract with a whole bunch of work. And I thought, after they kept me hired and continued to pay me for doing nothing for 6 months, for me to quit right when we just got this big contract and finally the company's got some business, didn't feel right. So I stayed on for a year. I said I'll give it one more year, and then that was when I quit. Yeah, definitely having that time to make content when I was getting paid to do nothing, more or less, was helpful.
That's I had no idea that you waited that long to be full-time. Was that scary to go full-time FPV?
Well, I mean, no, yes. I mean, obviously there's a risk there. But I really wanted to do it. I was like, the real question was whether it was the right decision to go full-time or to keep my day job and continue to work on the side, because obviously now you're pulling 2 paychecks. But I decided I really wanted to have all the spare time to work on this. That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
As far as at the time that I quit, the income from YouTube, Patreon, all the income streams related to FPV had gotten out to the point where it was about as much as my paycheck. So I basically doubled my paycheck. And I didn't even realize that. I was just sort of, grinding and working and not really looking at the numbers. And one day I looked at the numbers and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I could just quit my job Because I don't feel like my spending had really gone up. I hadn't noticed that all. I mean, like I was able to buy stuff for FPV. I didn't stress about, I need to buy some motors or a frame or a product for review. It was basically just money there for that. But in terms of, just our normal lifestyle, it hadn't really changed. And so I was like, I could quit my day job and basically, theoretically, have as much money as I did before. Obviously, there's always a risk that it'll change. But I was like, I could probably make this work. So.
How did the people close to you reacted to this?
Oh, I mean, my family's I have kids, but they're just like whatever. My wife's completely supportive. She doesn't care. She's
That's
like, yeah,
awesome.
let's do it. Yeah.
That's great.
So,
because not everybody, your age or even our age and stuff like that, understand that YouTube now is a job.
Yeah, no, she's completely down with social media and YouTube and so forth. She has some companies that she tries to do digital marketing and so forth. So she's 100% aware of how it can work. But I don't think it matters. She's just really supportive.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Because Lexi, you had a bit of different experience at some stage. You don't have to talk about it, but I know that it was different. Yeah, when you decided to go full-time creator.
Yeah, but for me it was I never really had any type of support, and everyone was telling me like, oh, maybe you're a little bit lost, Lexi. Maybe this is not the best idea. Maybe something. Like this is not how a girl should be. Doing things.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's a different background, but I'm fine. The same people now ask me to pack them into my suitcase as if they would fit.
You do get around.
I fit in a suitcase.
You've done a lot of, you went to Australia, then you went for Airspeeder, then you went back to Europe, then you went to Bali, just because.
Yeah,
you get around.
That's
where are you now?
The situation right now. Yeah.
Where are you now? Literally.
I'm in Bali still.
You're still in Bali.
So I went to Bali for 6 weeks. Yes.
Because you made a video about it. Now it's a business expense.
Now it's
yes.
That's how I feel with this.
I asked my accountant. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna do this modification to my car." And I said, if I vlog it for my channel, people would be interested in that. I said, if I vlog it for my channel, can I write off because it was $2,000 in car parts. I was like, can I write that off as a business expense? And she was like, you don't really do automotive content, so I don't think it would be a stretch. I was like, damn. And I look, you're doing you do travel content legitimately. So anywhere you travel, if you vlog it, boom, business expense.
Yeah,
I'm in the wrong niche.
It's interesting. So my tax accountant actually told me one day that, did you know that you can actually get write off of your hairdresser, makeup, and some of the clothing that you are using for all of those things?
For sure.
I was like, really?
Yeah.
So
it's
whatever
mind blowing.
I do, I'm like, can I?
Yeah.
Business.
Right up until they decide you've gone too far, right?
Yeah, I'm still thinking I will go a little bit too far, and then I will make a video that will be just proving to my tax accountant that this is a business expense, and it will be a 2-minute video of me using something.
I'm picturing you with all the makeup and 5 layers of clothes and be like, look, I'm using this.
There's a guy on TikTok. His channel is Scumbag Dad. I don't know if people should look him up or not, but he cracks me up because he does these little sketches, and he's literally just sitting, eating a hamburger. The phone is set up in front of him, and while he's eating, he's like, hey, everybody. He's doing the sketch. And I'm like, every single meal this guy does is a business expense. He's brilliant.
That's good.
He's mastered it.
Amazing idea. Oh my gosh.
I will look him up.
This is great.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing it too, because there's a lot of food on my channel, so I kind of write it off as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's really true. That's it. Everything that we put in videos. I have to start making videos again to be able to claim things.
Set up a company. This is the best thing you can do financially for yourself.
What people don't realize though is when you have a business expense, you still spend the money.
Yeah.
You just don't pay taxes on it. So depending on your tax bracket, you might get a 18% discount because you didn't pay taxes on it, but you still spend them. And also, if you're not making any money, you're not paying any taxes.
Yeah.
So like there's no benefit to a tax write-off at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it also depends the structure. Like my company is in Estonia, and Estonia doesn't have a corporate income tax, so it's 0%. And also this allows me, like, if I would be to stay somewhere for a longer time, I can pay myself just enough to keep myself in the lowest tax bracket.
Yeah.
The rest stays in the company.
I gotta register in Estonia, is what you're saying.
Yes, you can do it. You can do it. It's absolutely really easy. I have a video on that. But what I also do is that I became a digital nomad. So I'm not staying anywhere longer than 6 months. So then I don't really have a tax residence. So I don't really pay tax. But I really don't stay anywhere.
But the trick is that's all good, but you still have to figure out how to, it's like, yes, I'll do all that and I won't pay any taxes, but you still have to figure out how to get income.
Yes.
That's the trick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the trick. And a lot of people like asked me under my newest video, like, how do you have money to stay in Bali for that long? And I was like, truth being said, it's cheaper for me to fly from Ireland to Bali and stay here with accommodation for 6 weeks than it is to pay a rent for a month in Dublin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just about the place. But we kind of drifted off.
Yeah, no, that was interesting. I was fascinated.
About flow state.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of
project.
making money, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of making money, flow state, how was it to record it? Because that's like the biggest thing probably that happened for FPV. I mean, it's in Blu-ray, so it's serious.
Well, that's kind of you to say. So Flow State, it's a feature-length documentary about FPV recorded around 2000 in the time when remote ID was just sort of looming. And we got motivated to try to get the word out there about FPV and recorded this film. I got interviews from a whole bunch of people in FPV, and just think it's in some ways it's a love letter to FPV. So I hope FPV pilots watch it, love it, but I also hope that you could sit down with somebody who isn't in the FPV community and they could see what we think is so great about it. It's available on Blu-ray. I know that's a little weird. It's also available on streaming, but my partner who made the film with me, James Christensen, he was like, we got to put it out on Blu-ray because the advantage is that we control it. So we put all this footage on the Blu-ray. The original edit of the movie was like 3 hours.
Wow.
Because it was supposed to be like a
mini series.
It was supposed to be three 40-minute mini documentaries that were going to be on like Netflix. And then that didn't work out, so we cut it down to a feature length. It's like there's a 90-minute edit. But there's so much footage that people would love to see, and it's only available on the Blu-ray.
Yeah, because all I've seen myself is the trailer that you can see online. And I was telling Lexi, I would love to talk about flow state, mainly because I haven't had access to being able to watch it yet. And I've seen on the website that it says something along the line of coming on streaming. And even people under the trailer in YouTube comments, they said, I can't wait for this to be like on Amazon Prime or something. I actually share the feeling.
We finally did. So it was such a struggle to get it onto streaming platforms. It's now available on a whole bunch of streaming platforms. If you go to flowstatedocumentary.com is the film's website. There are some free ad-supported ones. If you don't like ads, there are some paid ones. You can rent it on Vimeo. We've got our own Vimeo site. And it is on Amazon Prime finally. So it's out there.
Since when?
Only recently.
Okay, because I had a look over the weekend.
Yeah.
Is it just on American Amazon Prime?
I don't know about that.
The Amazon Prime?
Let's
check Indonesia.
I'm just typing
it.
I'm looking it up now. Yeah, no. So it's on Prime Video.
Okay, because I had some free time this weekend, and I know we were going to talk about it, and I missed it. Oh my God. It's on Plex. I have Plex.
It's on Plex as well, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Okay. I think what happened is I got a bit off track after being on the website, and I didn't realize we could click those things.
Yeah, so I hope people will check it out. I know that some people have seen it. The release of it was a little bit of a struggle. We finished it, and our attempts to get we may have shot a little too high, perhaps. Like we really wanted. We had a guy, an agent, who was trying to get it to HBO streaming, of course, HBO now. Disney Plus, Netflix, and we got zero traction. And I think we lost some time in sort of getting it out there. But it's really, really exciting to have done it.
Amazon Prime is a big deal, in my opinion, though, for independent documentaries, because not related, but quick tangent. I really like a French rapper in France, even though I don't listen to rap music. It's the only person I listen to. And he did 2 documentaries now, and every time it's been on Amazon Prime. And that's how I watched them, because that Amazon Prime, for a bit of independent documentary, like not Netflix thing, it's amazing and it gets lots of traction. So I hope that now, I'm gonna watch it.
Okay. Absolutely.
I will watch it once I'm back in Ireland, because it's not available in Indonesia.
Well, that's why you need the Blu-ray.
But what do I read?
But you have to have a Blu-ray player. No one has a Bluray player is the problem, right?
I live off 4 suitcases.
Yeah, put a Blu-ray player in there. No, it's
no one has. We used to have like actual computers, but I don't know anybody who just casually has a computer. Now we all have laptops, and you can't put Blu-ray in laptops. You could buy Blu-ray readers on a platform and then plug it to you. But also, no, I'm so happy now that it's available. So just to talk a little bit about it, because I don't know if anybody listening, if they've watched it. In the trailer, it starts with describing FPV, and I thought it was doing a great job at describing what FPV is. And the person who did the best job is you, Joshua, not because you're the guest here, but okay, I'm just going to explain the context. Recently with my work, we've been trying to explain to people what FPV is, because we're trying to bring it to the construction industry. And lots of people are not aware of that, because they're like middle-aged people, and they haven't really grown up with YouTube or things like that. So they don't really watch this kind of things, and they don't have access to FPV footage. And what you said in the intro of that trailer is that we've all seen this Star Wars scene where you flying on those bikes and stuff, and he said that's what FPV is, and I'm like, I should have told that for like more than a year to people, because that's relatable.
Yeah, it is. Although I don't know if crashing speeder bikes is the best presentation for construction site, but that's why we do it
for racing.
Yeah. You go fast, and you get close to things. It's really amazing.
The rapid unplanned disassembly event, which is road.
Right.
But the vision of what it is, because people have a hard time picturing what it would look like, and just what you said in those few seconds. And I thought that it was powerful to bring FPV to the general audience, to describe FPV in such words, because everybody has seen some bits of Star Wars racing. You have to.
Yeah.
So it was good.
Well, the film has a lot of FPV footage from a lot of different FPV pilots all around. And it starts with a montage of this footage to try to immediately give people a sense of what FPV is doing, and it has people talking about FPV. You've got just a whole bunch of exposure to what we love about it. And interspersed with just a lot of people recognizing, people they know there in the film, and just some great FPV footage.
Yeah, because Still is also saying lots of people hate on drones or are not sure, and then when they actually see what we're doing, they're like, oh wow, that's actually cool,
Mm-hmm.
and good. Yeah, it's a good thing. So how did the idea was born to make such a documentary?
Well, I wanted to make a film about FPV. I had the idea that it's really cool to make this short form content. But I thought that, you watch documentaries about surfing or skateboarding, and it shows you this sort of, it captures this sort of moment in time.
Yeah.
And I thought that FPV really deserved that. And but of course, it was just an idea, right? I don't know how to make a film or market a film. So I met James Christensen at a Tiny Whoop race, and we were talking, and he actually had a previous film. He's a filmmaker, and had a previous film that he got. It was actually on Netflix. It's a documentary, and I was like, hey, well, maybe you want to make a documentary about FPV. And that's eventually how we it turned out to be something very different from what I had originally imagined. But what I originally imagined probably wouldn't have been a very good, 90-minute film either. So.
That's awesome. And, I didn't know the idea originated from you first. Obviously, I knew you were involved because I had seen the trailer. But I was really curious to see who had come up with doing such a documentary. Yeah. And then I realized it was you, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Another, important thing for the hobby, because you do all this knowledge sharing with us, and now you're trying to promote, the hobby, the art of flying FPV with other people. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't want it to seem, I was concerned that if it seemed like it was my production, or perhaps, and we talked to Drew very early because Drew's a friend of mine, and he has ideas about content creation. I was concerned that people might assume that it was a Joshua Bardwell production or a Rotor Riot production, and then we wouldn't be able to include people who maybe, like, for example, if it had been a Rotor Riot production, I don't think Steele would have agreed to be in it. Maybe it would have, I don't know, but there's some bad blood there. And I said, so how are we going to solve this problem? And I said to James, look, I'm going to finance the film. And obviously I have some ideas. I have some creative input, but I want it to be an SOG Productions. That's James's film company. I want it to be you have the final creative control, and ultimately it's going to be sort of your production. And that way he could go and he could say to these people, hey, look, I'm making a film. And I sort of intentionally tried to step a little bit to the back. I still took my credit, but...
That's great. And that's probably also a smart creative idea to do it that way, because you detach yourself from the product and you let a filmmaker seeing it with a filmmaker perspective. So, smart.
Yeah. He had a lot of ideas about how the film, like, he was like, well, we have to have some kind of tension. And I was like, can't we just, like, interview a bunch of people and show some FPV footage and it'll be awesome? And he's like, no. Every documentary, there has to be some kind of tension that is then resolved, you know? So we picked remote ID, the sort of threat of remote ID to the industry, to the hobby.
Which is real, though. It's not like you're pushing to find a problem. There are tensions around the hobby. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be real.
Yeah, but it's true that you need tension, quick tangent, because Lexi is involved in this. One day she sent me a YouTube video about a guy who said you can do a Netflix documentary about anything. And it's pretty much the plot is someone ate his toast. And he's trying to, he describes the event, how he went back in the kitchen and the brekkie was gone, like the breakfast toast were gone, and then you have interviews of the mom and the brother, but it's like in a Netflix style, and it's hilarious. So I agree, you need tension even for breakfast toast.
Yeah.
Well, if you want, we might cut it short. I have 100,000 more questions to ask you, but maybe if you're free, you can come back in a part two. Sure. But we always try to stay under an hour. So my final question, because I always ask this for the people when they come the first time on our podcast, is like, if now you had to picture yourself in like 3 to 5 years from now, like where do you think you're going to be?
Well, I mean, there's where do you think you're going to be, and there's where would you like to be. It's hard for me to predict where I'm going to be. I think a possible realistic answer is that I'm gonna be more or less where I am now. I mean, that wouldn't be so bad. I feel like in a lot of ways, my popularity and my success within the FPV field has peaked. Maybe plateaued is a better way to put it. And I guess I say that because, like, I'm always, like any YouTube content creator, I'm always looking at numbers. I'm looking at subscribers and so forth. I have 280. Wait, no, is that right? Do I have 280,000? I have I have to know. Hang on, I'm sorry.
Yeah, check it.
That's fine,
I
don't
don't know.
worry.
I want to know too.
281,000. Okay. And there, by some estimates, the total number of FPV pilots in the world is like around maybe 500,000. It's tough to estimate. But I think sometimes I feel like in order to grow, I would need to get out of this niche in some way. And I'm really struggle with that because I kind of don't want to. So I feel like there's only so much room to grow because there's only so many people who want to watch content about FPV.
Yeah.
But I would kind of be happy to just still be here. Like, there's always new people coming in. That's the thing. As long as there are new people coming in, there are people to sort of educate and train and help solve problems. And I would love to continue to be that person. Yeah. So
'Cause
I think.
I cannot. Yeah, sorry. You can.
Yeah,
finish.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say quickly, I cannot imagine a FPV world where you wouldn't be here telling us the things we need to hear, anymore.
That's a privilege. That's a privilege. I would love for FPV to get a lot bigger. I mean, if you think about how many people fly DJI drones, and you look at, there are people who make content about DJI drones, and they're very, very small channels, and they have, more subscribers and more views than me because it's just such a bigger niche. I would love for FPV to get bigger, to have more people start doing it and have more people want to watch the kind of content that I make. I don't know if that's going to happen. That's a tough one. In 3
I
years.
think FPV is growing currently, again, thanks to DJI. I may not like them, but I still have to give them the credit for that. But at the same time, I mean, I see more people like, it used to be like 5-6 years ago, if I said that I was doing FPV, everyone was like, okay, what's that? And now when I say that, oh, I'm doing FPV, everyone's like, oh, you have those drones that do so they at least know what it does.
Yeah.
They're getting that. So I think maybe we are now in the time in which it's growing. So hopefully.
Well, there certainly are a lot of people out there who are learning about FPV for the first time from some of the footage that's coming out of Ukraine.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's, I guess any exposure is good exposure.
I guess so. But it is so true. Recently, someone told me from in construction industry, they're like, oh my God, I saw, and I was just flying a Mavic 3 that day for work. And they're like, oh, I saw those things with the goggles and they're fighting with it. And you're like, what? Like, oh, okay, well, I guess now you know. I do that as a hobby.
Yeah. That's my fallback plan. If remote ID kills the FPV hobby, I'm just going to go work for those guys.
That's okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, thanks for joining today. I'm very happy, not just like for the podcast, but on a personal level. I'm really glad I got to interact in real time with you because I've been long time followers, and your video has helped me. You have personally helped me when I was working in a hobby shop, and I had people coming with problems I never had seen before, and I'm like, what's going on, Joshua? What do you think they did? So, and you always answer messages. I don't know how you do it, but thanks for doing all of this for everybody.
Yeah, sorry for spamming you sometimes.
It's fine. It's fine.
Sometimes I just don't know, and I'm like, hey, Josh.
I'm glad to help.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, good to meet you. Good to meet you for the first time. And of course, good to see you again, Lexi.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys very much for listening to this episode of Onigiri & Co. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget to give us 5 stars because that really helps us grow. And don't forget to follow wherever you can. We also have an Instagram, so you can comment under the episode here and tell us if you want a part 2 with Joshua, because he looks really interested in that.
Oh,
Me
come
too.
on.
Me too. Awesome. And don't forget
Thank you
to
very
have a
much.
look at flowstatedocumentary.com.
Oh, yes.
And
Thank
now
you.
available for streaming. So have a look. Don't make the same mistake as me.
Ah,
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
those things.
Yes. See you, everyone.
Thank you.